Hello, and welcome to the Pixel Adventure podcast. I'm Corey,
And I'm Jake.
and hey, look, we uploaded on time. This is new.
Yay.
Wow.
To be fair, that it is the first time in 3 episodes that we actually have it up on time, when we said we would.
Yeah, so pat on the back for us, and hey, you get to not have a huge gap between this and the last episode, not next episode, because this is, Jake salvaged this somehow.
So, there's been a lot of time between when we actually, talked about the stuff we usually do. So we basically decided, let's just kind of forget about all that stuff and just stick with what's, recent now. Because, there's plenty of, Overwatch stuff that we've missed and, plenty of other, game-related stuff that we've, missed over the last, couple of months.
Yeah.
That we didn't really, talk about much. So we're just, the Steam sale's coming up. Or it's been going on for a while.
It's going on until July 5th, I believe.
Yep. And so we basically decide we'd, spend some time talking about that, since that's kind of, it's something that we can talk about since we both bought games, and we've both played games that we bought through the summer sale.
Yeah, and people have also gifted us some games, and just talk about our general experiences with the whole summer sale thing. So, yeah, and also, it's been a while since we talked about just gaming. In fact,
Yeah.
last time we did that was episode 2, episode 1. Wow.
Yeah, because last time we talked about Korea, and then before that we talked about Japan.
You skipped the update episode as if it didn't even exist.
And the update. But I meant, videos. They're, usual videos.
Videos? Are you sure about that?
Let's move on.
Okay. Anyways, so a game that one of the games that Jake and I both got as gifts from a friend was Death, which
Yep.
it's a game. Wow. Let's
Corey.
move on. What?
Corey dislikes it more than I do.
Okay, so the game itself is you're either a diver or a shark. And the shark's objective is to prevent the divers from completing their objective, which could be escort a robot, hide for a set amount of time, collect treasure, that kind of thing. And the game immediately, the friend that gifted this to us, he has a fear of just sharks, I guess. And
water and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so that game's terrifying for him. All of the tension and terror was removed when I wiggled my mouse around randomly as the shark, and it just do its T-pose for other people and just look completely stiff and out of place. So, if it's supposed to scare me, the game hasn't.
I mean, I think the game is... I think it has a good idea, and even, the mechanics are good. It's an underwater game, and there are a lot of games that have underwater parts that just, don't work out well.
I will give it that. The swimming is solid.
And, even the game modes are pretty solid. It's just that, they're all pretty much the same.
Shark eats divers.
The sharks eat the divers while they do something. Whether it's, protect, an underwater robot, or they collect treasure as they hide from the sharks, as they always do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty much all the same, and it just feels like it needs more variety in it.
I will say the game mode that I enjoyed the most was Megalodon Hunt, I believe it was called.
Oh yeah.
Where what would happen is one player would be randomly selected to be the shark, and if you killed the shark, you become it, and you're trying to get as many kills as possible as the shark and not die. Now that was entertaining. The other modes were just kind of okay, I guess.
And to me, at least, it feels a little bit unfair, because the way the game works most of the time is there are 4 divers and 2 sharks. And while the sharks are a little bit overpowered compared to the humans, the 2 on 4 is just it's not fair. Like, it turns, like, these overpowered sharks into, like, nothing just because you can't really do anything because you attack one person and there's literally 3 others, like, there to kill you.
Yeah, just from playing the shark, it's you play the shark, you have to be very skilled because what makes you overpowered are like you have these upgradable trees for like different abilities, like you can regenerate health or people get hurt just when you swim by them, that kind of thing. And that requires you to actually kill the divers. So if the divers are very skilled, you're going to have a hard time pinpointing them.
And another thing, just in general, is just that, the way the sharks will kind of, like, kill the divers is by biting them and basically thrashing them around like a regular shark would.
The shaky, like, controls.
And the divers can, like, they can stab the shark, but, like, it doesn't usually do much. The shark usually wins in those encounters, unless the shark has already, like, lost some health. But the thing is, he also can't do anything to the other divers shooting him while he's eating the one guy, so it kind of, like, it kind of becomes unfair in that sense.
Yeah. I don't know. And also, sort of like, the whole thrash mechanic of moving the mouse back and forth rapidly in order to kill them faster, it also is disorienting, kind of. Where, like, you might be still shaking your mouse after you killed them, so... I don't know.
Yeah, and you'll easily just kind of, like, because it is underwater, it's easy to, like, forget, like, which way's up, which way you're supposed to be going, like, where you came from, those things.
So, yeah, what would you say overall is your opinion on the game?
I would say, to, like, kind of sum it up in one, like, sense, is depth is a solid game that could use some work.
I feel like I agree with that. Regardless, feel free to check it out. If it's your type of game, congratulations. I just don't.
It's only like $5.
Yeah, $5. Currently, if you're listening to this before July 5th.
Yeah.
Anyways, the next game that we both we played was Left 4 Dead 2, which I haven't played that game before, even though it's been out for who knows how many years.
Neither have I.
Yeah. It's fun. I really enjoy it.
I'd say it's alright. It's not my kind of game, honestly. Like, I can see why other people might like it, but personally, it's just... I don't know.
The thing that I really enjoy is that when you're in, like, a match with, like, friends, it really feels like you have to work together in order to survive. Because I've been in a lot of games where where it says, like, this is a co-op game, but then everybody goes their own separate ways and the game's just broken because you can complete things faster. But this game feels like you really should move as a group. There's a lot of zombies and a lot of traps that, like, require other people to help you. The maps that I've played are fun. The most recent one that I played was, like, this Dark Carnival. And, yeah. Also, the Witch is the scariest zombie in that game, and I don't care what anyone else says.
What about... Personally, for me, the scariest one is either the Charger or the tank. Because, like, you see the tank and you know you're not, like, gonna be able to, like, kill it on your own. And you see the Charger and you know you're not gonna outrun it if you, like, don't know it's there, like, right when you find it.
Well, I feel jumpy if it just, like, they catch me and they're off the screen. But,
like, it doesn't scare me, it's just kind of, like, you kind of get that feeling of, like, really...
It's like when you see a Reinhardt charging straight at you.
Yeah, or when you don't see the Reinhardt charging at you.
Or you see the Reinhardt, like, weave through the entirety of your team and just hit you.
Yeah. Or, like, when they're charging around, just as, like, one more, like, Reinhardt thing, when they're charging around the corner, and they didn't expect to get you either.
Yeah.
Like, they were just trying to get back into the action. But,
I say the Witch is the scariest because the Witch, when it's still, like, unstartled, you're fine, but if you have one person on your team that doesn't turn off the flashlight, she has a ton of health, she does a ton of damage, and, just in general, like, one of the things that I hate in, like, horror games and stuff is just, like, the sound of crying and stuff, and, like, knowing what the source is that, like, freakish monster. It just scares me.
I mean, I didn't really like some of the reasons why I didn't like Left 4 Dead 2 were I think one of the first and most obvious ones for me was the fact that you can't change any of your controls. And there are definitely a couple that I would want to like change around just to like I don't have to
Oh,
relearn the system
you.
just in case like
I forgot to tell you. I figured out how to rebind buttons.
how do you do it?
It's this really weird, dumb side option thing. It's not obvious at all, but I can show you after the podcast.
But like that's the thing, like that should be like something that shouldn't be hard to find. I know like I'm not the only person, even like in our friend group, who like was trying to find it, but we couldn't really find a way to like rebind the keys.
That was me when I was trying to use my controller.
Exactly. So like yeah, the controls are a little bit weird, and even though you can't change them, it's a little hard to like really do that because like I couldn't find it. I remember searching in the options for like a decent 15 minutes, and it shouldn't take that long for like most games.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
I don't know. I thought the gameplay is fun. One thing that I really like that they have in this game that I don't think a lot of other zombie games have is like that whole shove mechanic where if there's a bunch of them on you, you can just right click, push them back, and then have a little bit more of a gap between you and them so you can pull out a weapon that you need.
That's not it. Like I think that's an interesting mechanic, but I don't know. Personally I feel like any of like the melee weapons are like a little bit overpowered. Like it's one slice and you've killed them unless they're like one of the rare special ones.
The fire axe is really helpful.
The only real downside to the melee weapons is you're like more likely to get overwhelmed if you don't know what you're doing. And like
Yeah,
you'll
or if you're
sometimes
by
get
yourself.
targeted by like some of the special zombies, but like other than that, like you're pretty much like a god with any kind of melee weapon.
I'd say the two zombies that you have the most trouble with only a melee weapon are the boomers and the spitters.
Even the spitters aren't that bad. The boomers aren't too bad. If you kill it and you like run back to your team, you're fine because like you can't see, but you don't necessarily need to if you have like protection because it is like a very team oriented game. So you shouldn't be like charging off on your own. But like I don't know, the boomers aren't too
someone
bad.
I played with.
Who are you talking about?
Not going to say any names, but they start with R, ends in Yan or Yan.
Did they need healing?
Yes, and they refused to come back. But,
I find it funny because he like gifted me the game because he really wanted to play, and then like when I was like finally done downloading it, you guys already had a fourth person to play with. And I'm like, thanks Ryan for the free $2 game that I was already gonna buy.
Thanks. I love it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so those were two games I want to talk about that we both had, but I'm also interested to hear sort of games that you've got. So, like, I guess just how many games did you end up getting so far?
So far I got 10 games in total, and they all costed me a total of like $60, not even. So like, you know, it's a Steam sale, so it's pretty cheap.
So,
One of them was Depth, which was gifted to me, which was like basically $5 off my total. And then Left 4 Dead 2 was also gifted, so that's another $2. But like, overall, it's pretty nice. The one game that I've played so far from the Steam sale that of the games I bought was the MMORPG Black Desert Online, which was $10, I think.
I thought it was cheaper. I thought it was 9.
I think it might even be cheaper, yeah.
Yeah. But you and Ryan have been playing that a lot.
Yeah, I mostly got it because, well, first off, I play a bit of World of Warcraft, so I kind of like the idea of MMOs in general, so I was kind of curious what this was like, since I'd heard, like, a lot of good things about it. But, Ryan, the person who we had as a guest a couple episodes back, he was also really interested in trying it, because he plays MapleStory, which is another MMO, and he basically had the same feeling of, like, wanting to try another, kind of MMO. Plus, he's into, anime, so for him, that was another bonus.
From what I've seen, The combat looks interesting. I don't know too much about that game. All I know is that mounts are in it, different spells, and classes are gender specific. You don't really get to choose like gender for a specific class, right?
Yes, but like it is true that each class is gender specific, but for the most part there are kind of like there's like a decent amount of like crossover where one will be very similar to another that's like a different gender. Like one that I remember specifically is like there's a wizard class that personally to me, as a little bit of a side note, looks pretty much exactly like Gandalf. Um and then there's the witch, and I don't know much about them. I think they had like pretty much the exact same stats in terms of like what they specialize in, but like they were just kind of like different genders from like what I saw offhand. And like the thing that I find interesting about it is definitely the combat. As someone who went from WoW, which is like a target based, like you click on a target and you attack them, or you do some kind of area effect spell on them, and then you go to this thing where like you kind of have to actually aim your attacks. I think there is a lock on like system for some of the ranged attacks, but like in general it's very like you have to like like where your attack is going to hit, and you have to make sure your enemies are in that area, which is a very interesting mechanic for me to think about as like an MMO.
Would it be comparable to like a third person shooter in that regard?
In a way, yeah. Another way of thinking about it that I think might work is like think of it as like a 3-dimensional Super Smash Bros. Or really like any kind of fighter game where like the attacks are in a certain area in front of you, or at least for the melee classes, which is what I'm playing. So like it'll do the attack in front of them, but you have to like make sure they're like in that area of the attack.
So like if you're swinging your sword, they have to be within that fan in front of you.
Yeah, or if you're doing a stab, you have to make sure they're like pretty much right in front of you.
That's interesting.
Actually, Zelda would be a really good comparison for it. Actually, with Link and his sword.
That's actually really cool.
And
sorry.
Overall,
we both said at the same time.
Overall, I think it's actually like a pretty decent game, and I think I would even like recommend it to other people. One personal problem I'm gonna like quickly get out of the way before moving on is I've been having some kind of like connection issues with it, and apparently a lot of other people have been having that issue on the North American servers. And I don't really know if they're gonna like find a way to fix that, or if that's just something on like my end that I need to like work on for whatever reason, but it gets a little bit annoying. But overall, like I wouldn't mark that as necessarily as like a con or something for the game.
Because that's something that could definitely be fixed.
It's something that could be fixed, and it could just be something on my end, so I'm not gonna like, rant at the game like the connection issues are awful, that kind of thing. And like for me personally, like the UI is a little bit clunky, because even after like rebinding some of my keys because I didn't really like them too much, like it's still kind of hard to like find where everything is, because there's like a ton of different things for your character. Like there's your inventory, then there's your equipment, then there's your knowledge, then your progress, and then like your skills and all these like different things. And it's kind of hard to like keep track of all of them and where exactly to find things. And just overall with like, if you're like accepting a quest from like a quest giver, first you have to talk to them, then you have to go to the quest tab, and then you have to find which quest you want to do. And then you've got like press next through like all of like the conversation bits that aren't like narrated to you. It's all just like reading stuff. And it's like going sentence by sentence through what they're saying. And then when you get to the end, then you have to accept it. And then you have to exit out of the NPC like interaction thing when you like first talk to them. And then you can go on your quest. And it's a similar thing to complete the quest. So it's like, it feels very redundant, and it doesn't feel very like smooth, and it's very like clunky. But that's just something that I feel is a little bit of a con from someone who's used to World of Warcraft, where it's like talk to someone, click on the quest, accept it, you're done. Like, you don't really need to do anything else.
That whole next with the conversation, this just feels tedious.
And, like, it feels a lot with, like, JRPGs, where, like, you see the text, like, scrolling, you just gotta, like, click next, because, like, none of it's really, like, too important, you know?
Okay, is there any other game, or, like, if there's one more game that you'd like to talk about?
Another game that I personally just want to talk about, real quick, before letting you talk about your games, is, this game called Pamela. Do you know anything about it?
This is the first time I've heard of it.
Oh. So what Pamela is, I haven't actually played it yet, but I do plan on playing it because I heard about it back at, PAX East this year, where, like, I saw, like, I guess it's kind of like a flyer for it. It's a futuristic first-person shooter, and it takes place in this, like, it's one of those, like, failed utopia kind of settings, where, like, everything's supposed to be, like, perfect and beautiful and everything, but, like, something went wrong, and that's kind of the story of the game. And, like, when I first heard of it, and, like, read through the, like, little thing that I got from PAX, like, it sounded like a great idea, and it sounded really promising, and I started kind of, like, following it through, like, the website that they have for it. They would kind of, like, detail the progress that they were making on the game.
That's kind of like what I did with Streamline.
And I was kind of, like, really waiting for it to come out, and then I eventually kind of forgot about it, because, like, there's just kind of a long gap in, like, when they were releasing info about it. But then the Steam sale came by, and it was there again. And I remembered it, and I bought it, 'cause it, like, now it even, like, it looks beautiful. It's made in the Unity engine, and, like, the lighting, the textures, you know, the animations, like, they all look beautiful. And so I bought it because it was on sale, and it was, like, $18-20, something like that. Like, I figured I'd get it because it sounded really good, and now it looks really good. And, it's a single-player game, but I'm not too worried about that, because, I don't know, single-player games to me are, you know, usually pretty fun, so I'm excited to kind of get to actually play that.
I'm definitely going to look into this, actually. It sounds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So, Corey, what games did you get during the summer sale that you want to talk about?
Well, out of all of the games that I've gotten over the summer sale, whether it's gifts or buying it myself and that kind of thing, there are two games I want to talk about. One of them is Introlism, which I would not be surprised if you've never heard of it. The game itself is a rhythm game where you have this circle that's in the center of the screen, and you have, like, these quarter circles, like, just going in towards the center, and you have to hit either directions on your arrow keys or WASD to the rhythm of the song in order to earn points. And I absolutely love rhythm games, and that one just intrigued me because it's, if you mess up once, then you're done. Unless you hit a checkpoint, you have to start the song over again. And I've always liked a challenge when it comes to, like, rhythm games. I was huge with Guitar Hero and Osu and a bunch of games like that. So I had this on my wish list for a while, and it turned out to be less than $1. So I got it. And the thing that I like a lot about the game is that the Steam Workshop support is really good, and you can also make your own levels. So I'm going to definitely make a handful for songs that I'm a huge fan of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I personally find rhythm games kind of interesting, mostly because I've never seen the appeal of them.
Why so?
I mean, I personally just don't see the appeal of, like, doing something to a rhythm. Like, I'm more of the kind of person who, rather than depending on the rhythm, I'd rather just kind of, like, go with something that, like, has a fast pace to it than something like that. Especially as someone who will, like, listen to their own music in the background of, like, playing games. Like, to me, a rhythm game seems like you'd just kind of get rid of that ability to do that.
Well, I've always just had I've always just liked them because a lot of rhythm games that I played centered around music that I liked that I already would have been listening to in the background. So it's just like, yeah, I can listen to the song and also play a game and not have like the game drown it out because the song's in the game. Um, like the first track that you get after you do the tutorial, which the tutorial takes like a minute, is by Ramesses B, and that is one of my favorite artists. So yeah, it was really cool. Just being like, whoa, I remember this track. But
I mean, like, I have no problem with people who like rhythm games. It's just not my cup of tea, honestly. Personally.
I understand that. It's kind of like rhythm games are like one of those things where it's either you like it or you're just like whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that's Introlism. I believe it's less than $1. I recommend it if you're a fan of rhythm games, and believe me, it can get challenging fast. And the last game that I want to talk about, well, I was actually debating between two different games, but I thought, hey, we could go back and forth with this one because you also bought this game, Saints Row 4.
Oh boy.
Now, I adore the Saints Row franchise. I've played all the games, including 4. I already played it before, but I wanted to get a copy on Steam so I could just have it on my computer, and I was playing it quite a bit today, and I still love it. Now, there's a lot of things that happened in Saints Row 4 that are spoilers for Saints Row 3, so I'm not going to go into plot too much. Besides, the sort of playground that you're in now is a like virtual version of this city from the third game. So you have like these superpowers, like you can jump super high, you can glide long distances. There's a point where you shoot like ice blasts and like break ground around you and use that as attacks and stuff. And I've always liked 4 a little bit more than 3 because I like the soundtrack in 4 a lot better. And also just it just feels like they polished a lot that was wrong with the third game as far as like engine issues and stuff. I do have to say though, I'm sad that because of the super speed ability, cars kind of take a backseat, whereas in the third game you would just focus almost all of your effort onto making like the perfect car. And like after you clear the game, you just have a ton of money that you can just throw at whatever you want. You just make the ultimate car like over and over and over again, like different designs, and it was just a lot of fun. And Jake hasn't played either of these games yet, and I want him to.
I got the games because I saw them as like part of the Steam sale, and I was like at first I was kind of deciding which one out of the two I should get, and then I saw that they were both really cheap. So I got both of them. Because I knew Corey was like a big fan of the series, and he always had a lot of fun with them. So I figured
I have 100% in the third game.
So I figured, like, why not get them?
Yeah. It's a really good single player campaign, but you also have the option of going through it in multiplayer. And I haven't actually messed around too much with the multiplayer, although I've seen a lot of videos online and just heard from talking to people that the multiplayer is a lot of fun. And
as part of the sale, I got, I believe I got both of them as, like, the Game of the Year editions, which have, like, all of the DLCs with them.
The fourth game has all of the DLCs. I think the third game, the Complete Edition, doesn't have every single one.
Really?
Yeah, because it didn't have, there's a DLC that's, like, the vampire one, which allows you, like, when you do melee executions, instead of just snapping the victim's neck, you drink their blood and regain health. I don't know if that's in that full version, because I bought the Complete Edition before. Regardless, fun games, highly recommend it, especially if you're listening. Like, I can't stress this enough. If you're listening to this and the Steam sale's still going on, check out the games that we mentioned, because you may find yourself enjoying them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, they look really good, especially as games just, like, mess around in, as I'm pretty sure that's how they're advertised. But, like, I've seen Corey, like, play while he's playing, and, Like, he always makes it look like a ton of fun, definitely. And that's part of what influenced me to buy it.
Because anytime Jake saw me play the game, I had a rule where I would always play classical music wherever I'm driving. And it would just make things way more funny.
Yeah.
And especially like just things that you can make in the character creator, the physics of the engine that the game takes place in. And in the fourth game, there's a lot more wacky stuff that I can do. And I look forward to seeing what you think of that game after you complete the third one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so final verdict with Saints Row: play them. Do yourself a favor and play them, because even though one of my gripes with the game is that the map for 4 is a copy of the third game with only like a few minor changes, like certain stores are different and stuff like that. It's just, there's so much fun to mess around in. The DLC for both games I had like a ton of fun with. Like the it was like I forget, for the third game there was like this DLC about how they're making like a movie about like aliens and stuff, and you have to be like the main actor, and that was just a lot of fun. In the fourth game in general, I feel like just there's so much to do, so much fun you can have, and just overall a good time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's our experience so far with the Steam Summer Sale. If there's any games that we talked about that you're interested in, feel free to look them up. Definitely support the developers if you would like to play these games, because it's just, they're fun. And hopefully you enjoy some of the games that we recommended.
Yeah.
So, yeah. With that, I think it's about time to wrap up this episode.
Yeah. Our first episode to actually come out when we said it will.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. Enjoy the Steam Summer Sale. I've been Corey.
I've been Jake.
And thank you for listening. Bye.
See ya.
Hello, and welcome to the Pixel Venture podcast. And I'm Corey.
And I'm Jake.
I'm also half asleep. Anyways, so look at this. Consistent schedule.
Yeah.
We're not recording this the day of uploading.
Yeah, we pre-recorded this about a couple hours ahead of time.
Oh yeah, definitely. We think ahead.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good that we're lying to our viewers, like right off the bat.
I mean, like, we had plans of recording on time, but then somebody decided to go on a 16-mile bike journey and be like, oh, I'm too tired, I'm gonna go to bed early.
Look, it was pretty. It was a nice temperature out. I was with some friends, and I got ice cream after. It was a good experience, and I can't feel my legs.
There's no excuse for tardiness.
Oh my goodness. But, yeah. So, a few things have happened in between this episode, last episode. That's one of the things that happened with me. Another thing is, what was it? Well, actually, I'm planning to go on a short hike today after recording. So this is going to be fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to feel my legs at all tomorrow, which is great because I'm going for a job interview.
Yeah, you have fun with that.
I'll attempt to. Anyways, is there anything interesting that happened in between last episode and this episode?
Well, because of the summer, a lot of people that I knew in World of Warcraft are around again. And so we decided we'd try doing some mythic raiding, which is not easy at all.
Is it fun, though?
For the first couple of minutes, yeah. And then everybody just kind of starts dying. And then we start to take it seriously. We've made it through, like, the first 2 bosses of, like, the most recent raid. And we basically just kind of did it because we used to do, like, more hardcore raiding in the past, but basically, like, people just kind of, like, got too busy with life, but then we were like, hey, let's get back together because this expansion's really good.
Well, that's cool. I definitely think, well, like, just from talking to you and other people, that, like, the entirety of I believe it's the Legion expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that entire expansion really brought, like, a lot more life back into Warcraft.
It did, and it's being considered by like both new players and like the more like veteran people who've played since the beginning in vanilla. Like it's one of like the best expansions recently.
Mm. Well, anyways, speaking of Blizzard, and this is going to be like the main topic of the podcast, Doomfist has been put onto the public test-in region,
Yep.
and there was also this short like cinematic trailer that was made. Well, it was like an animation, but and we'll link it in the description of this. So if you want to check it out, you can because the animation on it is actually very very good. I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we both have been able to try him out a little bit, and we were going to sort of go over like his abilities, what we think of him, and what we can see the meta sort of shifting towards once he's introduced to live servers.
Yep.
So, what are your first impressions?
Well, I think one of like the first impressions that a lot of people have of him is that he's a very mobile character, and with things like that, you would imagine him being in like very open spaces, like when you look at all of the other like more mobile heroes. But like, I feel like he'd actually be a little bit better in tighter spaces, honestly, because if you look at his abilities, is it his E that has that it does that ability in a cone in front of him?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, if you do that in a hallway, like that could easily be like a guaranteed hit, as opposed to if it was like a wide area where people could like actually move around. And another thing that I noticed is not only would it be good for his right click where he charges up his fist and he like jumps forward, but it actually hits people back. And at least from what I've been able to see, if that person gets hit back into a wall, they take even more damage.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't be able to do in an open space.
From what I've just experimented with, I believe it's 100 or 150 damage when you do like a fully charged like hit and they smack against the wall. I think it's 50 if they smack against the wall, so that can take out like it's essentially like a Reinhardt charge. And for anyone who's listening who's played like the game League of Legends, think of the character Vi's Q ability where you charge it up and you dash a short distance. Imagine that, but the distance is quite long. And I guess since we're talking about the abilities, we might as well. I can do like a short briefing of like what each of the abilities are.
Sure. And
I'm going to sort of explain this from the viewpoint of someone who plays the PC version. If it's console, I apologize. I'm not too. I don't really understand the control scheme for console that well. Regardless, your left shift ability is a uppercut, which sends you up into the air as well as whoever you hit it with. And knocks them up and backwards a little bit. Your E is and while you're in the air, you see this like blue cone that represents like the shock area. And when you hit that, well, you hit enemies that are on the ground within that cone. They get a little damage dealt to them, and they're pulled towards you. We already explained the right click being the rocket punch. Then there's your primary fire, which is a 4-shot shotgun burst from like his knuckles, which you don't actually get to reload. It recharges like naturally, which kind of throws me off, to be honest.
Really?
I mean, like, I don't know. Because I instinctively was just like, okay, 4 shots, I'll hit reload. And I was like, wait, what? I don't know. It's something that I'll get used to. I mean, I played Diva a lot, so it shouldn't be too hard.
I mean, I see it a lot as being very similar to how, like, Tracer's blinks work, and how, like, those recharge over time. You can either, like, burst them all at once and let them all recharge slowly, or you can use them, like, very sparingly, and you can use them over, like, a longer, like, portion of time.
Yeah, what you forgot, Jake, was I'm garbage at Tracer, so this is going to be fun.
I'm just saying, like, it's not like a completely foreign concept for Blizzard to start messing around with.
Oh, yeah, but, like, I don't know, it just kind of threw me off, because with Tracer, that's, like, bound to a separate ability, not her primary fire.
True.
And that's what kind of, like, threw me off initially.
But because of his passive, you can tell that he's, like, supposed to be comboing his other abilities. Because I don't actually think there are many combos that involve his main attack. His left click.
Yeah. Although I will say the primary fire it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's really powerful.
His passive, before I go into his ultimate, the passive it's called the best defense, and what happens is anytime you hit someone with an ability, or is it a kill?
I know it doesn't have to be a kill, but I think it is, like, whenever he uses one of his abilities, which is his shift E or right click, and maybe his ultimate.
Oh, it charges off as his ultimate. I can attest to that.
Yeah.
But he gains shields anytime he hits an enemy with an ability, and just from me messing around with it, I was able to get him up to 500 health with shields, and his base is 250.
I was only able to get him up to 400, because didn't they even say in the developer thing he was only meant to have, like, 150 shield max?
I think maybe, I don't know, it might have just been something that I saw, like, wrong or something, but, like, it was, I don't know, he's just fun from just messing around with him. And the thing that I like a lot is the way his ult works. His ult is, he jumps in the air and becomes untargetable, and you're able to move around, like, this large target, which once it's activated, anyone within the center circle of the target, I believe, gets dealt 200 damage just straight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then anyone in, like, the larger radius gets I think 100 damage, and then, like, gets knocked back.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are looking at the offensive capabilities, like chaining this with a Zarya ult or just stuff like that. But I'm also looking at, like, his right click is a good escape tool, but that ultimate could also be a really good escape tool, because when you're moving around with it, it goes quite fast.
Yeah.
And also you can cast it indoors, even though you jump through the ceiling.
Yeah. And even, like, it is really fast, but another thing they can be used for is it can actually, like, climb over, like, different levels of, like, you can get, like, on top of things using his ultimate. It doesn't, like, keep you on just the one, like, level of ground that you, like, passed it on.
Mm-hmm.
So you can easily get up onto, like, ledges or second floors of buildings, things like that.
I enjoy just the amount of movement options that he has, and because of that, I feel like I might gravitate to using him on live servers instead of using someone like Genji. Although Genji, of course, has many things that Doomfist doesn't, such as a reflect, double jump, things like that. But, like, I don't know, just for the way that I like to play, like, shooter, like, class-based games, is very similar to what his kit allows you to do. So I feel like I might actually, like, gravitate towards using him. And I think the thing that I like the most is that he's an offensive character. From all the things just assumptions I had for Doomfist, I thought it would be like a tank.
Yeah. And I was actually thinking he'd be, like, maybe a defense, because we haven't gotten a new one of those, have we?
We have not. We have gotten a new support, new offensive, and a new tank, and now another offensive.
Yep.
I'd be interested to see what the next defense concept is.
Yeah.
I know that there's this one fan concept which was, like, floating around for a while that a lot of people liked, where it was this, I believe it was it was like this snake charmer type guy who had like that poison, essentially a flamethrower full of poison, If you're listening to this and you know what it is, feel free to like comment or just look it up because I think that's a really good concept and I could see that working well.
Yeah, I've been wondering like what they could do for another defense because they often kind of like overlap with what offense is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I could see him being a defense character that's like more mobile.
Yeah.
Because like he does have his own like shields he gets from combos, which could be a very good like survivability thing on like defense if you're trying to defend a point.
What I was sort of thinking, um, Doomfist is the type of guy that just dives into the enemy team and just goes crazy. Like, as long as he's hidden his abilities and he's making good use of his charge and everything, I feel like he can wipe out like a lot of squishies by himself. So what I was thinking was I could see a lot of like if you play competitive, like I could imagine seeing competitive teams running a dive comp that's centered around powering up Doomfist.
Mm-hmm.
Like expecting Ana, maybe Lucio. I was thinking more of a Zenyatta just to like confirm every single ability he hits as a kill.
Mm-hmm.
I could see a as far as tanks, Zarya. Zarya would synergize really well with him. I don't know who the other tank would be.
I think he'd make for like a really good dive comp. So I could see him being paired with maybe a Zarya for the survivability, but also and the ultimate potential. But also like a Reinhardt or a Winston, just kind of like help get in there and kind of like get some of the fire off of him.
I think the Winston would work really well.
Yeah.
And then as far as other offense heroes, I like to sort of keep the last one to be like either an offense or defense hero, because I've seen attack comps run like Widowmakers and Hanzos and Junkrats and things like that, and I had really good like great success. So I don't know. It really depends on what you would need for that match.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be good to have like more variety in the offense just because like you often see people picking offense but now there's actually like something new that you can like throw in there now.
I will say one of the comments on the cinematic like animated trailer that I just kind of laughed at was great. We already don't have enough people insta-lock in offense,
Yeah.
which I guess that kind of goes back into like if they like the next hero that they release, or like I guess the question that I pose is within the next 3 hero releases, do you think that one of them would be offensive, or do you think that we're going to be getting like tanks, defense, maybe a new support?
I would imagine them giving us a new support, partially just kind of like saturate a little bit more and give people more options to play support, since like nobody usually wants to play support,
Even though it's
more so than
fun.
people like don't want to play tanks.
Even though it's
That,
fun.
that's an opinion. Um, but I could see them doing some kind of like support thing. I kind of want to see what they want to do with defense just in general, because again, they haven't really like added any defense heroes. And as a tank main, specifically a Reinhardt main, but I usually just do tanks in general. Like I want to see like more tanks be like put into the mix and less Reinhardt, because Orisa basically is kind of like, in a way, she can kind of fill a similar role as Reinhardt, but like in a very different way, of course. And I just kind of want to see them take like a new perspective on tanks.
Because they did attempt to make a new anchor tank in Orisa, but I feel like the general consensus with Orisa is she's just a big old jumble of other abilities, which they're just like, oh, that could work there. This could work too. Let's just throw it together and then release it.
And I think Orisa does fill the role of an anchor tank, But I think what makes it different is Reinhardt has his charge to actually get in there and then set up, like, almost like a miniature foothold the way Winston can, except with a much larger shield.
What would actually be kind of like a cool tank concept would be, so it would be a tank that has shields that regenerate, but the way that it's kind of is that like they run in, they take damage, and then they have an ability that allows them to use whatever damage they took to project like a barrier in front of them. So
I think something that could be used as like an interesting concept, maybe not for like a tank per se, but I think it could definitely be used in that role, and it's you see it a lot in other games where the more damage they take, the more damage they're able to like deal back out.
Yeah.
And it kind of scales with how much health they have. Or how little they have, really.
Yeah, like a berserk type tactic.
Yeah, and I think that'd be interesting if you have a tank with like this huge health pool, but like when they get really low, they have a ton of more damage they can do back out.
Think either Mewtwo or Lucario from Smash.
And I think what would make that like even better is if that was paired with like a Zarya, who can just like bubble him at the last second to just make sure he does like a ton of damage all at once, as opposed to like getting killed off quickly.
I would be so cool to actually like
that would require like a lot of teamwork though, because like you'd have to make the healers like not heal them at full health, or else they'll be doing like very little damage. And from the opponent's side, you would also have to make sure you actually kill him off quickly, not just kind of like leave him with a little bit of health.
If anything, it would promote coordination with teams. Then again, I don't know if the mentality of target this specific character is the best thing, because there's a lot of people who, when they play Overwatch or just any game in general, where it's like kill the support first, they're the ones giving the heals and everything. Whereas, sort of, what's been proven is it's more effective to take out the damage and then take out the support, because then the support doesn't really have a whole lot of ways of fighting back, unless it's Lucio or Zenyatta or a good Ana.
I feel like it's very situational, because if you take out the attack and they have a Mercy, and that Mercy has their ultimate, you kind of want to make Mercy that priority.
Well, yeah.
But, like, it's very situational, and Overwatch requires a lot of coordination with, like, your other teammates. But this is Overwatch, so there's usually very little communication, so...
how was it? One of the big things for me, with Overwatch is, just generally, I want to be able to enjoy the game in, like, with friends and without friends, on comms or not. Like, I want to have, like, that kind of, like, enjoyable experience. And I also want to, like, promote, like, teamwork and, just general... I think you understand what I'm trying to say, and you would explain it a bit better.
If I am getting what you're trying to say, that, like, you feel like Overwatch should be a very, like, community-based thing, not just, like, online in the forums, but, like, also just kind of in-game. People should be, like, working with each other and even, like, communicating if that's possible in, like, one way or another, and not just kind of, like, flaming people when they don't do exactly what they want when they didn't say anything to do in the first place.
Yeah. The thing with me is I ended up actually taking a break from Overwatch for a while and just playing different games, because, well, I do that with a lot of games in general, where in order to make sure that I don't get too burnt out from it, I don't play it constantly. And, like, I mess around with other games, like mess around with Saints Row and other, like, games. And what I found sort of quickly coming back into Overwatch is, I feel like now more than ever, communication is important. It's, like, very important. Just because earlier it was like, okay, you can jump on if you need to. But there wasn't, like, nobody really had, like, a whole, like, grasp on strategy and stuff. Whereas, like, over time, well, not to say that the game didn't have any strategy at all, but like it was, I feel like it was a bit more simple, you know?
Yeah, in a way, I get what you're saying.
Well, I guess simple in the sense where it wasn't as big of a character pool. There wasn't as like diverse team comps.
Mm-hmm.
Like early Overwatch, if anybody remembers season 1, when they for whatever reason allowed you to take multiple of the same character, the double diva meta. If you weren't running 2 divas on your team, then you would lose no matter what. And
Yeah.
whereas like now, it's limited so you can have only like 1 hero per team. Because of that, it sort of encourages a lot more creativity in what you pick and how you play. And because of that, it's really important to be able to communicate back and forth with your teammates about what's happening on the map.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. What's your opinion?
I mean, like, these days, I don't play, like, a ton of Overwatch anymore. The main reasons I'll play it at this point are when, we have, like, a group of friends, they'll do, some more, like, competitive matches more often. And sometimes I'll just kind of, like, join them and do that just to get my, 10 placement matches done and do occasional, like, competitive games after that, because nobody likes playing tanks, and I apparently know how to play a decent Reinhardt, so sometimes they, like, ask me to join them, because, like, I generally find Overwatch, especially these days, to just be, like, really fun to play with, like, some friends, and just kind of, like, that way you can guarantee that you're going to be able to communicate with them, and also at the same time, like, you know you're gonna, like, work kind of well together, because you're all, like, already friends, you don't have to worry about, like, playing it with, like, one of those people who just, like, blames everyone else for stuff.
So, like, that general hostility is sort of gone.
Yeah, we also know, like, where all of our strong suits are, and we know where we can fill in if we're missing something, or if we have too much of something, we know, like, oh, this guy's also really good at doing that. People, like, I'm usually just kind of, like, a tank by default, but they also know I can play, like, you know, I can play support, like, Lucio and Ana pretty well, and I can also play Pharah, things like that, so, like, they know what I can fill in if we have too many tanks already.
And as far as Overwatch goes, I believe that it's important to be able to play each role decently, but also have that one role where if you are able to play it, you're able to just dominate with it. Like, for that for me has been support for a very long time. I played a ton of Lucio, played a ton of Zenyatta, and just it's just because when I got into the game initially, I had the mentality where I don't trust anybody else with my life, so I might as well be able to heal everybody myself.
Basically, my mentality with playing the game usually revolves around how can I take a hero and make them somehow mobile, because, especially, like, if they're already mobile, because I'm usually, like, the one person who's on the payload, and I'm basically, like, Corey can attest to this, I always have gold objective time. Even if I'm playing, like, Reinhardt, or, I've done with, like, a lot of things.
You had gold objective time on a payload when you were playing Widowmaker once, and I have no idea how.
I've had gold objective time with Ana, and she has no mobility. Like, I usually just kind of, like, find a way to get, like, survivability, and that's usually, like, how I choose my heroes. Because they have to be mobile, but they also have to be able to, like, either heal themselves, take the damage off of them, or deal a lot of damage, like, in short bursts. So personally, like, someone like Genji, I can't really play too well, because I can't get that, like, damage burst that I need.
See, I'm just not good at, I haven't been good at, like, a lot of the mobility heroes. Tracer, I've always had a hard time with. Genji, I got okay at, but it's just not, like, I wasn't huge on it. Sombra was okay, too, but, like, I don't know why, but I feel like Doomfist is the right kind of it, of mobility, for me. Because, like, I I have a small history when it comes to like fighting games and stuff, and so just the feeling of this is essentially like Doomfist for me is a first person like fighting game where I can chain and string together combos and stuff like that. I feel like that kind of build is what makes him appealing to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there any final thoughts about Doomfist, Overwatch, or anything?
Because of his more horizontal mobility with a little bit of like vertical here and there, and with his shields he gets through combos, I can't wait to start getting gold objective time with him. Because I can guarantee he's going to be. I bet he's going to be really fun to just like dance around on point to stall time.
Oh, absolutely. Like his kit is built around stalling, especially with the shields.
Yeah.
Like people would like if they're losing a point, they would quickly like switch to Genji or Tracer and like try to stay on the point. No, Doomfist.
Yeah.
So, anyways, thank you for listening to this week's episode. Again, if you would like to see the trailer that they released, we'll have it in the description. But yeah, and I promise next week isn't going to be as in depth with Overwatch unless they announce some new. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you.